So we'll just get started. Again, this is a week industrial Internet of Things workshop, and this 8-week workshop is sponsored by the UMI Metal Casting and the Foundering 4.0 centers. And then during the presentation, please mute your microphone and then ask questions in the chat window. You may turn on your microphone after the presentations, and the video will be recorded and then sent to you after the presentation. Okay, so I don't think I need to introduce myself anymore. And this is the link that you can find all the PowerPoint slides. Okay, so this week is the last week of our this workshop. And what we want to focus on today is that data visualization, okay, integration of the data visualization. So here's the outlines. Okay, so what we discussed before, like all previous 3 projects, mostly we focused on like how we could collect the data and then store on either in your Raspberry Pi or in a computer or sending to the cloud, right? For example, like Firebase. So, however, one of the things that is we really want to see not just the data itself, but some plots reflect the data. So make data much easier to understanding, okay, what's going on with the data. So in today's project, we'll do we'll have actually including 2 parts. The first one, we'll talk about the Firebase web app development, and we'll set up the Firebase hosting. Okay, so simply we're going to discuss how to utilize the Firebase hosting. And then the programming is a little bit tricky, but again, we'll just show the process and then can use some of the example code, right? And the second thing I really want to talk about is using the Plotly or the Plotly Dash to generate the customized graphs. So this one is using the Python programming. That's much easier to work with. And then, however, the difference is for the Plotly and Plotly Dash. For this portion, we use is that whatever you generated is hosted locally, okay, in a local host. So here, before we continue, I just want to emphasize all those under the assumption we already set up the Firebase project, like what we did in the previous one, previous week 7, and then we already, be able to push some of the BME to AD data to the Firebase project. Okay, so at least you have some data in your Firebase real-time database so that we could actually retrieve those data and then display it. Okay, so last time we already talked about the Firebase itself. It's basically a cloud service, and then they provide all different kinds of functions. Last time we mentioned the Firebase real-time database, right? We also discussed a little bit about the Firebase authentication service, right? So today, what we want to focus on is the Firebase hosting. The good thing about the Firebase hosting is that it can support all kinds of static and dynamic contents, and so it's more powerful. And then it does host it in to Google Cloud, and then you will be able to access remotely, and all the contents are delivered securely. So it does support HTTPS, unlike what we saw before. If we host it locally, we're just using HTTP, right, to access it. So this is the difference, more powerful than setup. It's of course, a little bit more complicated. So the overall idea over here is that we will going to, like in the last week, okay, we're going to have some of the sensors sending the data to the cloud to the what basically will store the data to your real-time database. So today, what we want trying to set up is that we're going to utilize the Firebase hosting, going to retrieve the data from the real-time database, and also we'll be able to display that, use that Firebase web app we developed. So there's also supported not only the different app supported, so also easily could be developed for Android app or that iOS app. And then that's just a different story, but this example we're seeing is just Firebase web app development, okay? So there's several things before we continue. We have to install a few softwares. So the first thing is that we have to install the Node.js. This is, as I mentioned, for this portion, for this part, the Firebase hosting this part, the front end, the programming is using the JavaScript. Okay, so we're going to install Node.js is a asynchronous event drive to just JavaScript runtime. Okay, so it is really helpful because they made the system more scalable, and then you can download it. Another thing we are going to tool we are going to need to download is so-called the npm. Okay, the Node Package Manager. So this one, whenever you download the Node.js, is actually already being downloaded all together. And npm, this is going to be useful. We're going to use it to install other packages, such as that Firebase command line interface, and also the Webpack. Those are going to utilize that npm tool. Okay, so that's one thing I want to mention. Another thing is that the tool, the IDE for the coding of these JavaScript is that I use the Visual Studio Code. You don't have to use that, but this is free and easy to use. So you could also download that if you would like to use that, open it, the project and the source code modified under this Visual Studio Code IDE, then you could download it over there. Okay, so let's go back to the Firebase. We need to first register this app in the Firebase. So the Firebase could, okay, see, allow which one you'll be able to access this project. So different apps. You need to register with it first. Okay, so we're going to go back in this example and showing using the, we assume we already have a project called IIT Node MCU example one. So once we have this set up, then we will just click one of them, add the Firebase to your app, so that allow your app to access your project. Okay, in our example is actually the real-time database. So we're just actually setting that, and then you will add the app. So you give your app a name because this is a web app, right? So if you want to access some website, you need a web address. So here is that that URL that you need to use or whatever you want to use in the future. Okay, so this is a defined, you can change it. So in this example, I will just using this IoT Firebase example. Okay, this as that apps access point, you know, the URL for your web app, URL for your web app. Okay, so once you have this one, then you're going to need just a basic follow the example, then what we want over here is you're going to getting some of that Firebase configuration, that information, and then that is specified for your web app. And you need to copy those for the later use, okay, for the later use. Okay, so once you're going to then and then once you do that, the assistant will asking you to install the Firebase, and then you do need to install the Firebase. Then we'll just assume we created all the project under directly IIoT, okay, like we're showing over here. So I just under this one IIoT, and I use npm tool to install the Firebase, as I mentioned earlier, because we need to also install the Firebase seal, the command line interface too later on. Okay, so we're going to install this. Once finished, that there's going to have some of the JSON file related to your Firebase setting under your directory, okay, which is needed later on. So you're going to basically run that command line interface. So also you're going to install this Firebase tools, which including the Firebase command line. So once you run that, well, just, okay, you're going to finish the installation. Once it is finished, that installation, then we'll do a few configurations on the authentication. If you already done that for your project, then you can skip this part, okay? One of the things we want to mention, okay, just like what we did last week, so you don't really have to redo this. Here, I assume you're just using my email address, you know, for this example, you obviously we're going to set a different account, right? And so one of the things for the authentication portion, once we set up, okay, you may skip it if you're already done during the for the last project. And then one of the things is that for the rule portion, okay, for the rules, we already mentioned read and write. So the write, you could also use in this one, meaning you allow a user with the email address, you know, for this authorized user be able to write to the database too, okay? Here is without. So either way is fine, depending on your needs, okay? So you could do that. But one of the things we want to make sure you have is you want to add the index on date and time. So that is allow us to retrieve the data from the real-time database for a specific date and time. Okay, and then we will look at also that later on in the example. So once you finish this one, then you just download the example code. Okay, you could just using the GitHub running on the directory or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Because later on, once you downloaded the file, inside of it is actually going to have like several files under the SRC or under the SRC folder, which is the source files. And then those just copy the whole folder onto your IoT, okay? Copy the whole folders on the IoT. In other words, if this is your project, okay, you could have different things on it, but you're going to have that SRC folder on it, which including those example code. So on some entry point of the index.html file, that's for the entry point, and then the index javascript.js, the javascript, and script.js javascript, and then UI, which is for the user interface javascript. Those are three JavaScript files, and one of the style file. Okay, so so the data CSS is cascading style sheet. And then this is used to format the layout of web pages. Using the style file will easier, you can control like the colors, fonts, and size of context. the complication of that front end, configuration of any of those apps is you interface with the user. So many configurations, things may get more complicated. Okay, so those are the 5 files that you're going to use for the examples. Now, for the source code, when we're doing that, mainly for the web app development, the Firebase support tool, that SDK is software development kit. That is a kit provided for the developers. And they have a 2 application program interface. One is that JavaScript namespace. Those are for the traditional, the older ones. The newer ones is more recommended for any new application development and is using the JavaScript modular. Okay, and that's what we're going to use over here. So in this example, and then once we develop the code, we're going to talk about too much details of code. Okay, just use it, and then this is it's rather complicated if we'll talk about details how you're going to programming in the JavaScript. But one of the things you got to change is the Firebase config. Remember what we did when we registered this web app in a Firebase, you have to change that, right? So you have to change the whole thing based on whatever keys provided in your Firebase project. Okay, so use that one, just copy it over here, then and you're good. So because otherwise you don't really have, be able to connect it to your project, right? So once you finish this, we are going to actually use the Webpack. You already has the source file and you change the configuration. Then how we're going to use all these things generated a bundle so that we will actually put the bundle into on that make it available for that Firebase hosting, okay, to provide that contents to the user through a browser, right? So Webpack is an open source module bundler, and then it's really useful for you if you want to develop JavaScript applications. So basically, it is a tool that can automatically build and infer your dependency graph based on what is imported and exported. So makes things easier. So you don't have to manually write, okay, what is the dependence? What should be included in your bundle? They can automatically infer that. So you're going to, again, we're going to use the npm to install the Webpack. And also we're going to install some library for the CSS, including the style load and the CSS loader. So again, the same thing, just using the npm to do the installation. Once you finish that, we will just copy a file. Again, under your downloaded folder, there's has a Webpack configuration files. Copy the file onto your project site, and then you want to change a few things. So over here, what we, you by default is actually you're going to already using this one. Here is just showing what is the entry point of the JAX for your JavaScript command, and then that's your source, the index HTML. Remember, and originally in our SRC folder, there's one HTML file. That's the original templates that they're going to use, and so that they can generate that bundle. Okay, so once you're done with that, you're going to run the command, generate a bundle, use the tool Webpack. So you have a source file, right? And then you already has a template, and you have the configuration. then we'll just run this command, and they were going to build. Once they finish the bundle, okay, once they finish the generate, once they finish this command, the configuration, then later on you can see under the distribute, okay, dist, this distribution and folder. Here's your source code, right? This is a generated file, one including the index.html. That's entry point of file. And then this is another bundle, the JavaScript code. And then we will need to have this too then to be used for your Firebase hosting, right? So in this case, that's the last step. You're going to just deploy the Firebase hosting. So what we want to do is, again, under this folder, you probably want to first log out. If you didn't log out yet, you want to log out. If we didn't log in, that's fine. So to be safe, we'll just always say Firebase log out and then log in. So remember, when you log in, you want to log in using that account that originally used to set up the Firebase project. Not that the account you added into the authentication, the Firebase authentication path. No, okay, not that account. That could be a different account. Just make sure you actually use that Google account to create the Firebase project. Then the system will, once you run it, we're asking you log in. Once you log in, you just follow the, follow that parameter to enter your account name and the credentials. And they will give you information, see the Firebase CLI login successful. So after this, you can just close this window, okay? You can just close this window and then continue in your command line, okay? Under your command line, then you can check what is the project list. They will list one bunch of project if you have a multiple project ready under your account, under your one account, you can create different projects. So here's just a short, okay, this is the project used in this example. Then next step will initialize the project using this command. That's the first time when you do the hosting, okay? So you just Firebase initiate the hosting. So once you do that, the system will ask you to do a few configurations as what you want to do. And you want to select which hosting going to integrate with which project. Okay, this Firebase hosting will be integrated with which project. And you choose the project. And then do you want to use as your public, what you want to, we do use the dist because the bundle, that's the default folder already generated and using the Webpack, right? Webpack. So you don't need to change it, just leave it as default. You could also build deploy with the GitHub, and then here we just, not going to deploy it. And then you could also see if you want to actually, they do override or not. You don't, okay, because we already use the Webpack generated. Okay, we generate it. So we'll just deploy it directly. And then once you finish it, so they will have this. Once you finish the deployation, then they will have several files to be added. Will be added. And then this line is the IoT Firebase example. This is the site name. In other words, is the same name which when we doing at the beginning created a project, right? This is the same name. So that's the website they're going to use it to access your web page, right? So that's what we have now. It's pretty much once they fill in, and they will tell you, okay, deploy complemented. And that's the hosting URL, okay? That's the hosting URL. Just using that to access your app. Okay, so that's pretty much what you have. And then if I click this one, and then it's going to loading the page. Okay, so I can show you the example what is going to be looks like. We could just using this one. I already entered the password. It's easy. Okay, so you guys can see it. All right. So here is my username and password. Will just end in. It doesn't have to be the same username and password for your Gmail or whatever. It we just different one, only for this purpose. So that is the same password we use when you enter into your authentication, the Firebase authentication. So if I log in, okay, we'll just look at the examples. So in this example, we're going to just see, okay, if this is my node one, I'm going to just choose some of the data, which I already has the data, which I believe is 08. So in my notes, I have that. 2023. Yeah. All right. So that's the node one date. I believe I also have a 2010, which are different dates. And then you can say what's the data you available. And you can check, okay, how about if I have a node 2? You see this data not available, and then you can check the day, only few days. I believe I have some data for yesterday. All right, that's what we have. And then we could also checking, okay, so how about the node 3? This not available, but if I running, okay, or just for demo purpose, I'm just trying to run the Firebase VME file. So I'm going to sending some data under the path node 3. Okay, and let's see what is going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to just choose today. Here we go. Where's my mouse? Okay, we'll just choose today. So this is just three data points: temperature, pressure, and then humidity. And then I believe I have the data is like 15 seconds per updates. It's a little bit slow, so you cannot really see the value. But you see over here, that's the data points update. It's going to update if there's new data come in. Okay, so this is just one examples and showing and for the Firebase hosting. Okay, so there's more data come in. Okay, so anyway, this is the Firebase. So as we say, this one involves the programming of JavaScript. So it's kind of not so straightforward. There's many parts you need to take care of, right? And then, but there's one tools I'd like to also introduce is this Plotly. Okay, Plotly. This is data graphing and analytic tools, and then they basically be able to be able to work with the Python. They can also work with the JavaScript or MATLAB, Arduino, other things. The good thing is most of code we were writing in before is using Python. So you guys probably already a little bit more familiar with Python. And then it's pretty easy to work with, and then they support all different kinds of type of graphics. And so like scatter or plots, the line plots, or biplots or 3D charts. So it is very powerful tools and easy to program. And then one of the things what we today going to discuss is the PolyDash, Plotly Dash. So it is just a framework. So it's like Flatsky. What we discussed in our first project, we use the Flask, but that one is only provided in that cases is in that examples, we only have what text output, right? We updated the outputs, but only in the text, not has graphic plots. So you can integrate that with Plotly altogether, okay, altogether. And it does has two different kinds of version for the Plotly Dash. One is the Dash open source and it's free, but only have a very limited authentication support. Like for the Firebase, you can have define all different kinds of rules. And so the authentication support is full functional. While for the Plotly, for the Dash open source is very limited. And they also has the Dash Enterprise, and then this is more expensive, but it does allow you use the Google Cloud or the Amazon AWS or the Microsoft Azure, and that way is for the development, the real applications. Here we're just using this free version of the Dash open source. Okay, and then see what we can do. Okay, see what we can do. So you could also see many different kinds of examples on there. They have pretty good online documentations also. Okay, so example source, you just downloading from this GitHub. Okay, you guys all already know how to use that, right? So you can just clone it out. And we also need to install multiple of the packages that we need to use with the PolyDash, including Plotly and Pandas and Dash. So those are the three packages that we need to install before you could run the example code. And if your Firebase admin package is not installed yet, also need to install this. But in last week, you probably already installed it, then you don't need to do it anymore. You could also use like cpip list using that command to check that how many and softwares has been, if those packages has been installed or not. So this just showing, or we have just running. Okay, see like pip list, and then it was showing I already has a Dash installed, right? Also Firebase admin, that's a version installed. What else? We said is Plotly, right? Yeah, and also has the pandas. So already all installed it. So you could just check if it's installed. If it's not, then you just run the pip install to install those packages. Okay, so in our example code, I have 3 programs in that example code. There are 3 programs. The first one is Dash app example. This code is the one that you need to run. Simply, you're going to run the code and then see what's going on. The second one is retrieve. So there's different ways you could utilize it, because when we run the dash plot, we need some data. So where data come from? And then data you can either from the Firebase, you can actually download that or export the data from the Firebase directly. So I can show you several things over here. Okay. So let me show you over here. You guys see it. Okay. So this is the Firebase one, but Plotly is the same thing. You could just change this one to Plotly. Okay, and we have a 3 code, and this one dash app example. Okay, this code, you're going to have need to do some configuration in this portion. Okay, so let me just show you this one first. Here's the example which we did in the last week. So let's see, we have the test. Right. That's the example we have. Okay, so the JSON file, well, we could export it. So for example, over here, let's see the node MCU. If I click this one and click again over here, you can export the JSON file. So in this case, all the data is going to export it. This is a little bit large, lots of entrance. And it's still going to be okay. So we can do this, for example, export to JSON, and then we can open this in the folder. And then we could have a look quickly, see what is this one looks like. Okay, I could just open this with Notepad, actually. Any text edit should work. So I don't know if you can see that. So this is a JSON file or the JSON file. This is a JSON file that you just download it and see over here, node MCOA, right? That's many entrance for every data point. They have timestamp, the humidity, pressure, and then temperature. Okay, so this is one example. And we can also go over here and then let's look at the sense of 516, which is I only have a few entrants, and that's just easier for you to look at. Okay, so for example, like this one. So this is uploaded or push data from that Raspberry Pi. So you can see again over here, have each one have the date, date, time, humidity, pressure, and temperature, right? That's what we have. And we can go back. And I want to export all the data under this path, sensor 516. Okay, we could just do over here and then export the JSON file. And then again, this file is actually exported, and then I can simply open it and you can see it. Okay, this one is only have a few items, and you can compare what we have, right? That's a JSON file we have. The fields is slightly different. The previous one, we actually recorded the Raspberry Pi's own time and then date and time when the samples are collected, like when the data sample point are collected. So those are the JSON file. So when we have over here, when we look at back into this file, this one is just plotting and then using some kinds of a file, but not directly from the JSON file. So we have two additional Python program to help with it. The first one is the JSON converted to the CSV. So we're just converting the JSON file to a CSV file so that it looks like more commonly of that, okay, each column, like more like our log file. before showing. So we have multiple columns. Each column is going to be like for the first column will be your date or time, and the next column maybe will be your temperature, and then next one will be your say pressure, or next one will be your humidity. Okay, so that the different data fields represented in each column. So and then we could convert it to a CSV file, so that your Dash app example file, this one, can plot, can draw the plots, okay, can prepare the plots based on this data. Okay, that's the purpose of the JSON to CSV file. And then for the file-based retrieve one, this file will just simply retrieve the data based on, so we can see, have a look at the code quickly. Here. Yeah, so if we go back to this one, file-based retrieve one. So over here, you can see is pretty short code. What we did over here is that we defined a function. We're going to getting the data from this real-time database paths, and then from the starting time and end time. So for example, if I only want to getting the data for today or yesterday, or I only care about this data for these 2 hours, okay, 8 to 10 a.m. I want to only getting that data, and then you could just define there using this. And then this function going to save the data to a JSON file, okay, to this specified JSON file. So this code could be called under your Dash app examples. So if I need to do this retrieve data, then you will just define, okay, you define what is your real-time database, where you want to access, and what's your time duration. Okay, so for example, this is I only want to getting data between those 2 times duration. You can define whatever you want, and then I want to save it back to the JSON file. Then I will convert this JSON file to a CSV file. And this file is eventually going to reading using the pandas. So we're going to reading those data from this CSV file, and then so that Plotly can draw the plots. Okay, so that's the idea. We're different ways to perform that. We're going to see it in a couple of examples. Okay, we'll see that. So another thing corresponding to this is you want to make sure, if we want to, in this example, if you want to access the data, okay, this is only needed when you want to use the file-based retrieve function to getting a data for a specific date. Okay, if you don't do that, that's fine. If you just export from the Firebase, then you don't need to including those portion. This portion is I want to turn on the index on, so the system can inquiry for a certain durations. So based on this values on the timestamp, we define, okay, if the timestamp is between a certain range, then you're going to return the data, right? So this is one thing I want to mention if you want to do that. Now, here's the file again. Those are only required if you want to getting the data. If I don't want to do this, I just want to export the whole path from the Firebase directly. You can do that too. Then in that case, this configuration will not be used. You could just comment this one out, add a punch sign in front of this line. Okay, so you can just comment this one line out. I don't need this anymore. and then you just converting the JSON file to a CSV file. And you could even use just using the CSV file directly if you already use in the previous project. So for example, like in the week 6, right? We actually save the logo, the log file in your computer. So you can use those files directly also, draw the plots using the Plotly, okay? So you want to finish this configuration and run it. They won't just show you over here. Again, for the Plotly dash, go this is run that open source one, that the free one, the free version of it, it can only run locally, okay? So you're only using the local host, and then default port is 8050, okay? So that's it, you'll be able to see it. You could just open this one in any browser, and you should be able to observe it, okay? So I'm gonna quickly show you the some examples. Okay, so let's see, where's my things? So, okay, so let's see what we have. Okay, and just to show you quickly. All right. So we're just getting the GitHub and quickly. So we're just getting that, and then we'll just log into this. Okay, and then should be able to sorry, run. And then you can see all the files are there, right? Now, the first demonstration is that I would like to use a local file. So I'm going to just copy one of the files and whatever, it doesn't really have to be, any of that previous of your log file is fine. So we'll just name this one, just name this. Okay, we'll just copy this file. That's one of my previous text file, which copied under this folder. And we could have a look how does the file looks like. I'll just show you quickly. My folder. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go to the OT Plotly. So just open this file, and this is the file really recorded from the BME 680 sensor. Okay, so just a few data over there, and I could just run this code. Okay, so we're going to just open this program and let's see how does it looks like. Okay, so we'll just open this one and over here. Okay, you can see that's the file dash example file. We want to change this one, so we can comment this one out. So I don't want to run this, and then don't need to convert it. I simply want to process the CSV file. Honestly, you can also comment out, but you're not used anyway. So we're going to just using this file. We just copy it, right? In this one. So in this case, there's just one parameter you need to change. If from any log file, we have 2 fields, and we're just change this one to 2, and then I'm going to save it. And then we're going to run this margin. Okay, so once it's running, let's see. Okay, so I have to, because the system will give me an error if I don't really have those things used. See, that's this fine. These are okay. Because otherwise they will try to search for this file. But since I do not try to access to my file base, I don't have the file yet. So give me an arrow. We'll just save this one. And then let's run the code. Okay, so once you run the code, they will just give me information like this. I will just copy this one and open it in the browser. We go back to this browser. Okay. And then that's what we're going to observe. So you can select whatever data series it be. That's depending on the first row, right? The head of each column. And you can choose. So if I want to comparing my temperature with humidity only, then you can see the information. And that's the data. You could also, see specific portion. So that's one example that we can use. Okay. And then second one is as we downloaded some of the file already, right? So how about we'll just copy the file. We'll just copy my file, which is just downloaded. The for example, this sensor, this file, copy it under my user under that IoT pod project directory. We'll just copy that over there. Okay, so this is the case. So you can see over here. We'll just copy the file into here. So we're going to actually has also this JSON file. Oh, that is what you already saying before, right? So we have the JSON file there, and then we can, if we have the JSON file, we just want to convert it. What you do is that in this code, then you go back to, okay, I want to do the conversion. So we'll just convert it, and this one will just come back to number one. This cases you do any conversion. So the JSON file is going to be the file we just exported from the Firebase. So we just copy and then paste over here the name, the file name. And whatever this, you can create whatever name. So you can see how about the sensor 516. Oh. Okay, just make it easier. And that way I could what? I could rerun it. Then this is once it's reruns, what's it? What happened? Since oh, this is false. So this is not from the node MCU, right? So it should be false. And let's run that again. Now you're going to see this is based on what we have. And you're going to see a created file already have over here. That's sensor 516 CSV generated. So this is the data. We have the timestamp and the humidity, pressure, and then temperature. So this is the field data point you're going to observe over here. So you could have a pressure and then temperature, but you only have not a lot of the data point, right? So this is the second example is that we just downloaded directly exported the data over here, you could do that too. So the third one is that we will just the data again and go back to the code. You will just uncomment this one line and then see whatever node you want to access. For example, you want to access B, and then you can check some of the date. Let's see, 25. I don't know how much data I have there, but we could see. Those are the, probably can change another name. CUV. Okay. And then the JSON file you want to create it is, say, you name it. You're just giving him a name. So we probably could say node MCU be downloaded. But whatever name you give it, they will retrieve the data will be saved to the file. Okay, so those are the things that you may adjust and see what data you're going to have. By the way, over here, it seems you want to retrieve the data, or access the file-based real-time database, you still need to put this one back. And you make sure you do have these credential JSON file in there, okay? So I also need to copy the credential JSON file. Let me see, where's my credential JSON file? So when you have my credential JSON file to be copied on this directory. So when we find the JSON file, this is my credential JSON file. Okay, so this is my credential JSON file. Then you're going to run again. Oh, okay. This is also different name, so I have to make sure it has the same name. I believe this one too. So we're using week 7. So I'm going to run again. Okay, so now we go back to over here. Okay, now there's one. This one, there's no MCU, so you should choose true. It's a little funky. You see, there's only pressure and temperature. There's no humidity. This one line is missing. So we'll just read down that. And then refresh it. Reload it, the web page. Okay. So this is a node MCU B's data where we obtained. That's 3 of them. And you can see that's humidity pressure if you only want to copy the humidity pressure. That's data point and something. Right, dropped suddenly. Okay, so anyway, this is the demo. And then you can see different data. There's a few examples showing, that's for the app layout. You see, you can change whatever. That's the first line, the Sense Monitor dashboard, and this one is also asking select what, data series. So temperature and pressure, whatever, that is automatically generated from the first line first row, okay, first row of the .csv file. All right, and here's just the function itself is just to update the plots based on the CSV file. Okay, so pretty much that's it. I'm sorry this is running related. Whenever I have a demonstration, it takes longer. Any questions? Thanks for listening. Any questions? Again, all the example code are available in the GitHub. You may want to try it out. Any questions? If not, thank you very much for listening, and hope you enjoy the workshop, and then feel free to email me if you have any questions. You're very welcome. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for listening. And then if you can give me any feedback, see, okay, if there's any questions, I'm looking for that. Okay. Great.